China is the wealthiest nation in the world. China has had the world's largest middle-class population since 2015, and the middle class grew to a size of 400 million by 2018 and is projected to reach 1.2 billion by 2027, making up one-fourth of the world total. As of 2018, China was first in the world in total number of billionaires and second in millionaires. There were 658 Chinese billionaires and 3.5 million millionaires. In 2019, China overtook the US as the home to the highest number of rich people in the world. China is the world's largest manufacturing economy and exporter of goods. It is also the world's fastest-growing consumer market and second largest importer. But despite all these, there is always something behind the picture. Estimates from various sources, including the World Bank and the Chinese government, suggest that income inequality has increased at least 50% since the late 1970s, making China one of the most unequal societies in Asia. A recent study reports that less than 1% of Chinese households control more than 60% of the country's wealth. By comparison, 5% of the households in the United States own 60% of the wealth. Rising inequality, to be sure, is not unusual in countries moving toward a market economy, but China's neo-Leninist system, warped incentives, and elitist policies have amplified the trend, and this is the darker side of China. A generation ago, the offspring of the ruling elite took up positions in the government or military. Today, they go into business. The social ramifications of their self-dealing are particularly evident in real estate, where peasants regularly earn less than 5% of the value of their land, while developers pocket 60%, with the remainder going into local government coffers. Privatization, too, offers insiders a chance to hit it rich by gobbling up state assets on the cheap. A recent study showed that 60% of privatized state enterprises were sold to their managers. As a result, 30% of all private firm owners are now party members. Meanwhile, basic services and good governance for ordinary Chinese are falling further behind. According to the World Bank, China's governance ranks in the bottom half of all the countries in the world. China underinvests in crucial social services, especially education and public health. Government expenditures on education fell nearly 20% as a share of total education spending in the 1990s. In rural areas, home of China's poorest citizens, 78% of the education budget must be raised from peasants through local taxation and fees, while Beijing provides only 1% of the funding for rural education. In public health, the consequences of misspending are even more severe. Government money, which accounted for 36% of all health expenditures in the 1980s, plunged to less than 15% by 2000. China has hospitals and equipment, and its per capita spending is higher than comparable developing countries. But these resources are among the most unequally distributed in the world. The World Health Organization rated the fairness of the Chinese healthcare system below all countries except Brazil and Burma. According to China's own Ministry of Health, 2/3 of the population lacks any type of health insurance, and about half of the sick do not seek professional medical treatment at all. Rapid economic growth has not yet produced China's much-anticipated political pluralism. Perhaps, some observers speculate, China is still too poor to afford democracy. But with a per capita income of nearly $1,500, $4,500, if you consider people's purchasing power, China is richer than many poor democracies. It's not poverty that is holding up democracy. At the moment, China's economic growth is having a perverse effect